Now, some of you, ladies and gentlemen, may be aware that next Tuesday, the ESB, Electricity Supply Board, are celebrating the 50th anniversary of a momentous happening in the history of this country, because on the 5th of November 1946, the first pole in the rural electrification scheme was erected at Kilsallaghan, out here in North County Dublin. And this was followed the following January by the switching on of power in Old Town, also in North Dublin. Not many people know that. Kilsallaghan for the pole, Old Town for the power. And these two events kick-started a scheme, I suppose, which was change utterly the working and domestic lives of people all over this country. And it would be impossible, I suppose, to explain to young people today what it was like before everybody got the ESB and the electricity into the houses and into the factories and so on. We want to spend a few minutes reminiscing about those days, the days when it happened. And would you welcome, please, Alice Taylor and Micheal O'Murray-Hertford, who are here. Let me show you that. You see, to us, it's not all that long ago. I mean, have a look at that. That was a very favourite toaster, and we had one of those. That's the toast. We had one of those in our house. I remember it very well. And you had to take the toast out and turn it round, you see, and put it back in order to get it toasted. And that was a favourite. Did you have one of those, Alice? Did you get one of those?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was one of the first things actually that came into our house.
A toaster?
Yeah, because my mother was into toast. And
your mother was into toast?
She was into toast in a big way. We were always toasting bread to the open fire.
Yes.
So when the electricity came, for some strange reason, after the kettle and the iron, the toaster was the first thing.
Yes.
And there was no pop-up in it.
No.
So the advent of electricity in our house,
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we burnt toast wholesale in it.
Yes. And it was spring-loaded, Alice, you see.
That's right.
It clicked up tight.
Yeah.
Now, you will remember this, and this was the pre-electric iron. What do you mean? You all remember this, do you? I don't believe it. You see, you used to have to pull that yolk up there like so, and you had to take out a yolk in there, and you had to heat that, did you? You had to heat that yolk in there, did you, Alice?
That's right.
That went into the fire, you see, and it got heated, you see, and that got roasting hot, terribly, terribly hot, and then that went in there, and the shutter came down, and you ironed like that. That was the iron. And then the electric iron came along, and I remember, it's amazing the way things come back. Do you remember the little thumb thing there? The little button on the thumb thing? And that was all the go. You got one of those too, Alice, did you?
Yeah.
And that must have been a godsend.
That was a gift. Because, you know that first little fellow?
Yes.
I mean, he was a lethal weapon. He could burn the hands off you.
I'm sure.
Because when you took the heater out of the fire, you see, you had to hold the iron in one hand, and you had to get the tongs and pick up the yolk, and you had to balance. And if you didn't get it right, you got scorched.
Scald the hand off you, yes. But that's a nice little heater. That's a little fan heater of the time there. Rather decorative, sort of Art Deco, kind of, a nicely designed little thing. But I see nothing wrong whatsoever with this electric kettle. It's a lovely kettle, isn't it? It really is beautiful. And it's still working as well. And you got one of those, I presume, too.
Yeah, that was the first.
So what was it like before that then, Alice? Can you remember before you got the electric kettle and all of that?
Yeah, well, I mean, we were reared to the oil lamp and the candles. And there was just an oil lamp in the kitchen. Now, the one in the kitchen was, there was this handle out of the wall, as you could call it, with a kind of an iron base, and the lamp rested into it, and it had a glass bowl. Now this was filled with oil every day and lit. When it started to get dusk, I mean, there was no waste because the oil, you got a gallon of oil for the week. And when it was, I mean, cleaning the globe was a big operation. I mean, if you broke the globe, that was a disaster with no light. And it was cleaned with newspaper and paraffin oil. And then the globe was put on, and the lamp was lit very low for a while, so the globe would warm up. And I remember there was a custom of putting a hairpin, I don't know how many will remember that, over the top of the globe to stop it from cracking. Now, I don't know how effective it was, but it was done anyway. And that was the kitchen lamp. And then you had, a posher lamp for the parlour. The parlour lamp was brass, and it stood on one leg, and it had a lovely kind of a pale green bowl with pink roses, and that had a shade. I can remember the shade. It was fluted around the top, a bit like a ballerina doing a headstand, and it just looked lovely. And that was only lit for visitors. and maybe Christmas and things like that. But the kitchen lamp was the thing. And then for the bedrooms, all we had was a sconce and a candle.
Yes.
And we were given a sconce and a candle every night to go to bed. And I sometimes remember, you know, when we got to the bedroom, we did a lot of reading in bed, and we would pour a little waterfall of candle grease on the top of the bed, and then stand the candle into the candle grease, and read. And I mean, it was highly dangerous. There's over half the houses in the country wasn't burnt. But they weren't, you know. But the candle and the candle grease spattered all over the bedroom floors and up the stairs. And every Saturday it was our job, the children, to go up with kind of blunt knives and scrape the candle grease off the floors. And you'd imagine that would make us careful the following week. Not a bit of it. We splattered it all over the place again.
Micheal, what you used paraffin as well before you got
the paraffin was the big thing.
Yeah.
And paraffin was rationed, you know, during the war. So that's where the candles came in. Now, one thing Alice didn't mention, the little Sacred Heart lamp that had a wick as well.
Yeah.
It was a very dainty little thing with a red bowl on it and a very, very thin little wick. Now, that always had a little bit of oil. It didn't take much. But the lamp and the paraffin oil and the double wick, if it was a big lamp. And they were always on the wall. When the ESB came, they went in the centre of the room.
Yes.
But for some reason, the lamps were always on the wall or in a corner.
Yeah. It must have been phenomenal to find houses lit for the first time. I mean, there must have been corners of houses that had never seen much light.
It had never been seen.
Never been seen. Yes.
So I was actually away when the electricity came. I think it came in the early 50s.
Yeah.
And I had been accustomed to the candles and the paraffin oil lamp. And then suddenly to come home and to see this light in the middle of the room. It was a dramatic change.
Yes. I remember my mother-in-law, Lord rest her, saying that a neighbour of hers got the electricity in Saggart, and she asked her the next morning, how did it go, Biddy, or whatever her name was, and she said, oh, Dinah, she said, it was too bright. I switched it off and I lit a candle. She couldn't take that amount of light.
Yeah.
And then quite a lot of people were afraid of it at the beginning, you know, that this danger or this fear of being electrocuted.
Yes.
And I know one neighbour, he'd be last to bed every night, he'd be reading the paper or something. His last thing to do, his daughter Mary would have gone to bed, and he'd shout up, Mary, come down and put off this light. And Mary had to come down to switch off the light. Just the fear of touching it, it might be alive. You know, this was an elderly man at the time, and he was actually afraid of what electricity might do to him. He loved the light and all that.
Yes.
But I think that was fairly widespread, fear. People were, if you like, ultra cautious about it, but they still all welcomed it when it came first.
Yes. I have a little video to show you, a little piece of video. This belongs to the ESB, and we haven't been able to source it or find out exactly where it was. But it's a parish priest in some small place, obviously, switching on the power for the first time. And it's hard to imagine now what a momentous occasion that would have been. Roll it there, Ray, please. Just have a look.
I think I have kept you long enough. I'll do the important point now and give you some light on the subject. I hope that I haven't kept you too long, and by simply putting my hand on the ticker here, I'd give electricity to the countryside. Now here I am doing it for you all.
Lovely, lovely, isn't it? God knows where it was.